What's up, UX fam? How's your mom and them? Welcome to, what is this, the fourth, the fifth? I think this is the fourth edition of Beyond UX Design Live. I am so excited. Emily, how's it going? How are you?
Really good, thanks. Thanks. How about you?
Not too bad, not too bad. So before we get started, I'd like to know where everybody's joining us from. So drop a little note in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. I'd love to see where everybody is joining us from. Real quick before we get started, got to give a shout out to our sponsor, UX Playbook. Do you feel lost in your UX career journey? Well, let the UX Playbook be your roadmap to success. Handcrafted by my buddy Chris for UX designers just like you. These bundles offer comprehensive guides on everything from UX fundamentals to portfolio creation to nailing your job search. It's packed with hundreds of videos and Notion guides with real-world examples, pro tips, and exclusive bonuses, and all that makes the UX Playbook your one-stop shop to elevate your career. And because I know this will be a game changer for all you out there, I've partnered with Chris to get everybody hanging out today 10% off the Fast Track bundle if you use the code BEYOND when you check out. So head on over to beyonduxdesign.com/playbook and use the code BEYOND and save yourself nearly $25. So don't wait, get your UX journey back on track with UX Playbook and transform your career from fuzzy to focused. And I've got one more little special treat for you. Stick around until the end and master all the things that they didn't teach you in school with an exclusive $20 discount off your copy of Beyond UX Design. Master your craft beyond pixels and prototypes, but you gotta wait until the end. You can't go logging off early to get that $20 off. As always, thanks so much to Chris, Siraquan, Stacy, Radu, Megan, Andrew, John, Mark, Kevin, Jason, Michelle, and Marty for all their support. And if you want to join those fine folks and many others and help keep this independent and ad-free, you get exclusive access to that entire video library of episodes, including episodes before they're even released. You can get instant access to Beyond UX Design video archives for as little as $5 a month. That's a steal. And for more information on how you can support the show, help more people find out about what we're doing here, make sure to check out beyonduxdesign.com/support. And of course, if you think this show is worth sharing, then I would love it if you told some friends. So as you can clearly see, I've got Emilie Mazurek hanging out with me today, and we're going to be answering all your questions about career shifting, handling all the challenges, using skills from your old job hunting. We didn't talk about that in our episode. We totally skipped over that. Building confidence in your career path, finding your tribe, and all that stuff. So I am really excited to have Emilie on. Emilie is a senior product designer with a background in biochemistry and hospitality. And after graduating at boot camp, she landed a full-time remote role in less than 3 months and was promoted to senior designer in just over a year. And now she's helping all y'all out there do the exact same thing, hopefully, fingers crossed. Emilie, welcome to Beyond UX Design Live. How's it going?
Oh, good. Oh, good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, right on. All right, so don't forget, everybody out there, get your questions in the comments. If you're on LinkedIn or YouTube, I think X too, you can leave a comment and they'll pop up in this little thing we got here. So please do that. Let us know where you're joining us from too. That would be awesome. I'd love to see that. Emilie, we have got a ton of questions that people submitted. So we're gonna get started and just hop in. But before we do that, I know we mentioned this in our episode, but real quick, anybody listening that didn't listen to the episode, what are some things you wanted to ask about today? And they can leave those questions in the comments. Or some stuff you want to go over.
Honestly, whatever find my kind of expertise, at least loosely transitioning from an unrelated background into you have questions related to that, or actually like didn't quite get to that in the episode. So how about that today?
Right on, awesome. Cool. And so I hear like a weird echo. I don't know if that's just me. If anybody else hears that, leave a note in the comments. I'll deal with it. But if everybody else hears it and it's a problem, we'll figure it out. I don't know. LinkedIn Live, Restream. I'm not sure what's going on here. Anyway, all right. So first up, we've got some awesome questions. A few of the questions that we got were sort of very similar, so I kind of like tried to group them together. So a few of them were from multiple people. Very similar questions though. This one's a really good one. I like this one a lot. This one's from Steph. And just kicking this off, thinking about your career transition, did you have any mentors or your support system that were particularly helpful with your career shift? And if so, what types of things do you think that they helped you avoid that you may have missed had you not had that group?
Oh, wait, that's really interesting. Look at it. I guess in terms of mentors, we kind of touched on the episode, but like that group of people that I had from my boot camp, pretty like in hindsight, it was a big network to kind of check in weekly, whatever it ended up being, and just to assess like where it was very motivating. And you could also come from what people were doing, what was working, what wasn't working. So maybe that's more towards the second part of the question there. And then some feedback like on my portfolio while I was applying for jobs and making sure that was reflected. So got a lot of feedback on what wasn't working there. Just reaching out, asking for feedback at things that I don't know, you just been working socially to something for so long that you can just so easily.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so this is interesting. This wasn't a question someone asked, but I'm going to ask this because I think this is kind of interesting. There's a lot of people that are taking boot camps. There's a lot of people doing, coursework in universities and traditional programs. They have a class, they have a group, a cohort, whatever. But there's a lot of people out there learning UX on their own, and we actually have some questions related to this. Actually, there's a question related to this. Let me find it real quick. Yeah, okay, cool. So she asked a similar question, actually. So I'm just going to read her question. So this is from Chrissy. I'm making a major career shift after about 2 decades in the workforce. She's currently self-taught in UX, and she loves it. I have my resume, portfolio ready to go. I gave my dusty, empty LinkedIn a fresh makeover in an attempt to get myself out there. The reason is that I don't know a single person in or near the field. So she's self-taught, she doesn't have that class, she doesn't have that group. How can somebody new to the field find a mentor or even just meet people in general? She goes on to say, I've done everything you can think to connect with people aside from cold DMing to ask if they'd like to mentor me. She lives in a small town, not a big tech scene, and I guess this is an interesting one. She works in a job where she doesn't have access to her laptop or phone during the day, so she feels locked outside of a carnival looking in, which she can only watch. Anyway, she's curious. Like, I guess this is more a broad question. Like, how do you build a community and a network if you don't have access to that built-in cohort like you would with a class or with a boot camp?
Yeah, we're working with some serious constraints or a computer during the workday. Okay, so I would probably look for events or that are happening working hours. That's something that I tried to do. I go to one event a week when I was stretching to meet people. Right, there are a lot of people are going to be there for the same reasons. So you can meet people that are in the same spot as maybe a few steps ahead, even advice, build relationships and all those things that are just going to help you, start to foster community. You can also look to like Slack as something as well. Again, lots of people spot, and you can connect with them, ask questions, get feedback. That's kind of those are good places, just looking for people in a similar spot to you, where you can actually have a relationship, and then that's where that can turn more like mentorship or a friendship or whatever you're looking to build.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's a really great advice. I love that a lot. Like, I think like for me, a place like LinkedIn, I mean, I think is nice. It's maybe personally for me, and I'm biased here obviously, but I don't particularly like Twitter or X, but places like X and Instagram, there's a lot of people in the design community there. But to me, it's I don't know, more superfluous maybe is the right word, or just like kind of like I feel like you get a little deeper with the connections on LinkedIn. And that might be my personal experience. Other people might completely disagree with me there, but I don't know. I'm curious. Is that like something you've experienced, like LinkedIn, building that network on LinkedIn and using that as like a way to, foster that community? I don't know.
Yeah, I like LinkedIn as well, obviously extremely biased, but she's right in that the fact like just sending a code, yeah, like maybe you're gonna get that connection, but does that something? So what's actually much better is like in the comments. So like somebody's posted something, right? Ask a question, and that's how you to build that, right? Versus just like sending the DM. I'd love to connect.
Yeah.
Real goal, right? And that doesn't always will usually turn into much from my experience.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So let's see, Emily, real quick. Sorry, I didn't. We're on a roll here, but the echo. I get some comments, people mentioning it's hard to follow. Could you try like maybe unplugging your mic, plugging it back in, perhaps? I don't know if that'll work. Give that a try.
Does that work for you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, the quality went down, but there's no echo. This is
Oh, okay. Well, sorry about that. Well, then, yeah, problem solved. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think the audio's or the mic is your earbud mic is picking it up.
Okay. Yeah.
It's perfect. It's all good.
Gone.
It's all good. Yeah, so I love LinkedIn personally for that. And this is something Chrissy mentioned, going in the DMs. I think personally, the DMs might not be the best approach. I personally like the comments. I think the comments, replies on Twitter, replies on Instagram, are a really great way to have a conversation out in the open. Lots of people can join in. You can see other people having a conversation. You can join in on the conversation. So you don't have to necessarily cold DM people, because a lot of times, like for me, I know like I get a bunch of DMs. I'm sure you get the same. Like not avoid them. I just overlook them. I don't get
You
them all the
avoid them,
time.
yeah.
I see them. Like honestly, I'll be honest. Can I be honest? I'll be honest with you guys.
Yeah.
Just you. Nobody else knows. Nobody else is listening. But like when I get a bunch of DMs, I get anxiety that like I have to answer them all. I'm like, oh my god, and then I just avoid them. I don't know if that's like my ADD brain just like being weird, but
It's a lot though, right? Like sometimes it can be overwhelming, and then I don't know how I can help all of these people, and I don't actually know who they are, and it just like starts to snowball sometimes for me as well.
yeah, for sure. All right, so I like that a lot. All right, let's see. So Restream doesn't seem to be working, and the chat is not populating. So I pulled up LinkedIn. So I'm on LinkedIn. I'm browsing the comments.
Okay, cool.
I don't see any questions yet. We got a lot of people come in. Let us know actually on if the echo's fixed. I think the echo should be fixed. I noticed some people said the volume is low. I just turned the volume up for both of us. So if that's still a problem, let me know. I can crank the volume up a little bit more for us. But anyway, this is the joys of live. You don't get. We were joking when we did the episode about how post recording it and fixing everything in post and all this stuff is like so much easier than doing these live events. But anyway, all right. So Chrissy, I hope we helped answer that question a little bit. This is a question from Hazel. I'm a junior UX designer and have been applying for jobs but not getting anywhere, as many adverts require at least 2 to 3 years of experience. I'm finding it very frustrating. Is there any advice that you could give me to help keep up the motivation, help with this, keep motivated and keep doing it? I'm adding that last part. I think that's what you meant.
I sip the same, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, it's funny that you mentioned this. I think this is a hang up that a lot of people have. They read the job description and the requirements. I'll use that loosely. And oh, I don't meet all of the requirements. I'm not going to apply. I've just been on the other side of hiring, and you'd be amazed how many people are applying that are not even close to hitting, half of the requirements. So I think if you hit like 70% of the requirements, apply anyways. If you can do all those skills that they've listed and you don't have 3 years of experience, it doesn't hurt to like throw your hat in and see if you get a call back. You'd be amazed, the people that are applying anyways, that make it look like it's all popped up. 100 people have applied. Well, it doesn't mean that there's 100 people that are going to be competitive, right? So don't let that discourage you. The first job that I got was asking for 2 to 3 years of experience. I had 0. They picked me because I was able to articulate in my past how that was valuable. I worked as a scientist, and they're like, oh, perfect. This person's comfortable running experiments, and they're analytically minded and data oriented. So you can use your past to your advantage, and that 2 to 3 years, it's a request. It's not always a requirement. Almost never, actually.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's something I think a lot of people, and this is interesting, I've heard this statistic as well, where women will tend to try to fit 100% almost, and men might apply even if they know they don't have a certain like threshold. And that's kind of interesting. I don't know if you have any thoughts or anything to add to that. Have you seen that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that has been like a confirmed statistic, which is disappointing. I think we just put so much pressure on ourselves, and we want to like reach that certain level before we can reach that. But like part of that is just like having the confidence to try anyways. And then what's the worst that's going to happen? You don't get the role. No, what happened if you didn't apply anyways, right? So I think that's the right mindset we need to take when it comes to these things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's really good advice. I think just go for it. Just try. It's interesting because I wonder what a hiring manager would say. It's like you don't fit all the things. Like you're just wasting my time right now, especially when they have like thousands of applicants coming in and stuff. It's kind of interesting to think about though. I don't know, but I'd say shoot your shot. Why not?
Within reason, right? Like if you're more than half the criteria, like that's probably what they're looking for.
Yeah, and I think it's also worth noting too that a lot of those job descriptions, they're copied and pasted from previous other hiring managers. Probably just got something from somewhere else. Maybe they found something on the internet. Maybe there's a standard rec that the HR team uses, and they have to, so like they might not even be looking for all those things. So I think that's something to think about. A lot of hiring teams, they don't have a lot of experience hiring because they don't do it all the time.
Right.
Big companies obviously, but small companies, they might hire somebody once or twice a year. And just like applying for a job, hiring a candidate is a skill that you need to practice. And Not everybody is really good at that. I think that's something people probably don't really think about too much. But anyway, I don't know. Really interesting. All right, so there's another question that kind of relates to the career shift that you, or the past experience that you were just talking about. Let's see. Where I got to scroll down. There's so many questions that came in. I'm so happy to
Oh,
see this.
excellent. Okay, great.
So basically, I don't know where the exact question was, but I'm going to paraphrase it here, and I'm sorry because I'm not giving whoever submitted it credit. But it was basically they were a QA engineer, and this was sort of specific, but maybe we can generalize a bit. But coming from a technical background to UX design, or let's just genericize this and say anything. You talked about, beefing up or speaking to your experiences and show how those apply. What are some tips or maybe ways that people can think about their past experience? If there's some maybe questions to ask themselves, or maybe like a method to go through, or something to help think about those things so they can highlight those past experiences and skills and show how they apply to them.
Yeah, I think like the best thing you can do is like look at the skill set of a designer and think, what are the main things that I need to do to be successful in this role? There's a good chance there's a lot of overlap, but the flip side of it is, you don't know what you don't know. If you haven't worked as a designer, it might not be obvious to you what some of these things are. One that I always come up upon is like giving presentations. That's a skill a lot of people have experience with, and they don't recognize how relevant that is as a designer. Another one is like taking very complicated information and kind of distilling that down and explaining it in a simple way. Another thing that designers need to have a lot of experience with, and many people do have experience with that in the past. So those are two skills that I always like to bring up, like, hey, just in case you're not aware, like these are things you definitely want to highlight. The other thing that you can always look to are the soft skills. The best designers out there are the ones that have strong soft skills. I always say, like, you can have the best design in the world. If you can't convince someone that it's important and valuable, it doesn't get built, right? So the soft skills, in my opinion, are always going to be far more important. So you can look on Google, common soft skills. Pretty much all of those going to apply to being a designer. Communication, collaboration, problem solving, listening, all of those things. Think about the overlap between your current role and what that might be. Those are the things that you really want to highlight and bring to the table.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's true. The soft skills, those are things that are beyond obviously just UX design. I mean, they apply to everybody. So regardless if you are a QA engineer, you're going to need to learn how to communicate. If you're a product manager, if you work in retail or wherever, those communication skills, soft skills like that. That's something to think about too. I think that's applicable across the board, and that's something too. Like I've actually I've talked with a lot of career shifters, and the trend that I've seen with career shifters is they tend to move up and progress in their UX career much faster than a simple, not a simple, but a junior designer who's just starting out with their first role. And you, for instance, I mean, you went from biochemistry. Within a year, you were a senior. I know multiple other people who came from things like, industrial design, moved over to UX, and they were already like senior in staff in like 3 or 4 years. And the reason I think is because they built up those skills and they know how to navigate a team. They know how to work with people. Maybe they weren't doing UX design before, but they were doing other things. But they were still working with the team, building relationships, selling, advocating for their work, and all that stuff. And they tend to move up much faster. And I think that's something that I think a lot of people probably aren't thinking about. Like when they career shift, they're thinking about the hard skills and all that stuff. But the hard skills you can learn. The soft skills you can learn them obviously, but I think they take a long time to kind of master. So anyway, I love that. That's really great advice. Let's see. I'm getting some comments that my mic is super low. I just cranked it up a little bit. Is it still bad? Let me know. I think there's a delay of like a few seconds, so let me know about that. I don't know what's going on here. I know last Chris Wynn had a live event a couple weeks ago, and he had a bunch of technical issues. I don't know what's going on. Can you hear me okay?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, it still sounds like there's a fan, like a blow dryer going off behind you, like to be honest with you, but that's been like that the whole time.
Really?
But I thought it was just me that could hear that, so I was like, whatever, like that's
That's so
fine.
bizarre. Let
It
me
is
try
strange,
something.
yeah.
I asked you to unplug. Let me unplug. I'm gonna unplug and plug back in. One second. Alright, I'm back. Can you hear me now? Does it sound the same?
The hairdryer did stop when you unplugged, but it did come back. I don't know if it's just me
I
though.
don't know. Maybe my cables are. Technology.
This is what happens when we try to use technology, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. All right. Well, whatever. We'll get back into it. Sorry, y'all. If y'all can't hear me, I apologize. crank your volume up. That's going to be hard. All right, we got
There's
a
only so much
question.
you can do, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, whatever. The show must go on. All right, so this is a quick question from Abdullah on YouTube, actually. So, a quick, fun question for Emily. What's the secret to the awesome graphs and charts that she's always sharing on her milestones, apart from all the effort and hard work, honestly? How do you make all of those graphics? Is that just
Oh, okay. Well, like the main graphic that people might know me from is like my career, like my job search charts that I make, and they're called Sankey diagrams. You can literally Google Sankey diagram, and it will make one for you. You just put the input and the output. So no design skill required at all. You just need to know what the values are. So those are kind of like the ones that like funnel like a large chunk to a smaller chunk, and then it splits off. If you're familiar with those.
Yeah.
And then any other graphics that I make, like at the end of the year, I always do an experience map of like what my year looked like. And I just make that on Figma, honestly. So every year I look back at the template and like make some changes to it. And I actually published the last Figma template. So if you find me on Figma, it's in the community there and you can grab it totally for free. So those are the main ones that I use. But if you have other ones you're thinking of, just let me know.
Right on. That's a good question, Abdullah. Thanks for asking. All right. Abdullah's always got really good questions. I love we got people watching on YouTube too. That's fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Abdullah, let me know if on YouTube this is messed up too, or if it's just LinkedIn. So who knows? It might be a restream issue. I don't know. I'll have to look. Bug your tech support after this. Okay. This is a question from Joyce. How do we get real world experience after completing boot camp or school without obviously getting a job? This is the chicken and the egg question. What are some thoughts there?
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's awesome if you can get real world experience, but I would put the question mark. Do you need real world experience to land that job? Maybe you don't. I actually had 3 passion projects on my portfolio. Was able to land my role. I recognize that was like 2 years ago now, so things have maybe changed a little bit. But I wouldn't say that you have to have this experience to get that job. If you're wanting to get experience outside of your boot camp or maybe you're self-taught, I would look to hackathons. It's maybe like a short experience, but you're still working with a team on a problem, high pressure situation. That can be really cool, and that can build you another case study potentially. You can also do some volunteer projects. Do you have a friend or a family member that has a website that needs to be redone or a business they're running? That's a really cool real world project. It doesn't have to necessarily be paid for it to be a real project. So get creative and look for opportunities if you're trying to find some kind of work experience that you can showcase on your portfolio.
Yeah, one of the things that I think a lot too is like when people think about real world experience, I think what they're comparing is maybe like the dog walking app. Like everybody's got a dog walking app, or everybody's got like the chat app or whatever. And I think like you mentioned this passion project, something you care about. Like, are you really passionate about the dog walking app? Is that something that you really want to showcase in your portfolio, or is there something you care about that you know deeply that you can explore and create a portfolio, a case study from that, something new and unique. And I think in that case, that's something that I think a lot of people in boot camps, like the bigger boot camps, tend to do that kind of stuff where everybody gets the same prompt,
Right.
and everybody ends up having the exact same portfolio. But if you think about something personal and unique to you, you know that problem deeply. You can speak to it. You're passionate about it when you explain it in an interview. And I think that's like really powerful. I wouldn't discount like just that alone, being able to explain this thing in a passionate way. So anyway, I don't know. That's something too. I love that you I want to call out like your passion projects and you cared about versus just a random, I don't know, prompt you found on the internet that you couldn't.
This was my assignment from my boot camp. This is why I did this. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
not super compelling, right?
Yeah, I've reviewed. I can't tell you like how many times I've reviewed portfolios from junior designers, and they're just like, yeah, why this problem? They're like, well, we were assigned it, or that's like the first thing. It's like our boot camp team was assigned it. Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, come on, like that is not a problem statement.
Yeah.
That's just like,
give me a little more. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's a really great point. Like, I don't know that you need the real world examples. I think you just need examples that are not so generic. I think that maybe that's something to kind of think about. All right, cool. So let's see. All right, let's see. I got some other questions here. All right, so this one kind of speaks to in our interview you talked about not having a lot of UI experience. Bridget asks, any tips on how to show work that's more heavily focused on UX than UI? I don't have too many highly visual elements in my work, and it's not yet a strength of mine. No thoughts there.
Yeah, that's okay. It doesn't have to be your strength. Like if you're more leaning into the research side of things and that's what you have experience with, like showcase that. That can be just as interesting, just as compelling. Of course, having great visuals will be eye-catching and that's nice to have, but maybe you can put infographics or other things that are, helping to tell the story. And if you're still working on your visual skills, we kind of talked about this in the podcast, but like look to libraries and look to real world examples to try to align your designs in that way. You're still going to want to have some visual elements on your case study to grab that eye and make it more scannable. But be selective in what you're showcasing. You don't have to show every single mock-up from the whole prototype. Pick the four you're most proud of or the ones that really relate to the story, and then run with those and just make sure that those ones are done really well.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I love that. So something else to think about is like, I think this is something you could try, and this is people have been doing this for a long time. Is use topography to design your site. I mean, you don't have to necessarily have big, beautiful UI examples, but like use headers, use space, use white space, use all the things you can do, the tips and tricks for typography to enhance the layout of the page without relying heavily on the graphics that you've designed in the UI. So yeah, I think that's something to think about too. Is like you can absolutely look at that and apply some of those topography tips, right? So anyway, I don't know, something to think about. Just a thought. So I don't know. I don't know if you had anything to add.
Hope that helps. Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so you said my audio, is it fixed now?
It's fixed for me. The hairdryer's gone. You sound clear.
No clue why that is
strange,
the case.
Right?
I didn't do anything. All right. Well, yeah, I saw on LinkedIn, someone was like, the mic isn't on. And I'm like, it's on. The settings are there. Like because I have a checklist. I've actually recorded a couple of episodes of the podcast where I selected the wrong mic.
Oh, shit.
And so it recorded from like this whole conversation with somebody from like my computer, which is like sitting on the floor. I have like an external monitor. And anyway, I was like, well, maybe that's happening. And like, but I have a checklist now. Whenever I join a meeting or whenever I join an interview, I'm like, check the mic, make sure. So like,
Fair,
I feel like I'm like a pilot, like getting in like my checklist before I like
That's
take
awesome.
off. Anyway, I hope it's fixed. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't do anything. I did unplug it a little bit ago, but maybe the cable was loose. I don't know. Anyway.
Strange, yeah.
All right. All right. So let's see. We've got a ton more questions here. Before we do that, anybody else have any questions on LinkedIn or YouTube? Leave them for us, please, and we will answer them for you. All right. So let's see. What kind of projects would be... Okay, here we go. All right. So Yaz asked a question. What's the best way to showcase who you are as an emerging designer with a lack of design work or a strong portfolio? What kind of work or projects should be present in a portfolio when you aren't able to do freelance or volunteer work?
So kind of like we just touched on, like those passion projects, anything that you're super invested in, it's going to be easier for you to talk about and have rationale behind and get excited about building out that project. Another thing you can look to is your past. So for example, I worked as a waitress, worked very closely in that problem space, even I can call it. I can recognize what a lot of the opportunities are. And that's going to be a very compelling case study because I have that experience, right? So not that I'm building it for myself, but I can see like, if I was designing something for the customer or maybe even the waitress, the point of sale system or something like that. I have that expertise. And then if I actually wanted to get into that industry, that's going to be a very compelling case study. So what I would think about is like, what industry do you want to work in? That's one way that you might want to tailor your portfolio and to kind of guide you into like what projects you might want to showcase.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I guess the question too is like, why can't you freelance? I don't know. Maybe let's see. Who asked this? I forgot. I already forgot. I like scrolled up. But yeah. I would like maybe if you're on and you can answer. I'm just curious. Like, why can't you freelance? Is there maybe you signed a contract said you can't moonlight or something? I guess that happens. But yeah, I think in like you said, those passion projects, just finding those things that you care about. I think that's a really great way to do it. And that's the thing too, is like, I know of a lot of people who have, and actually this is something I talked with Treg Frank not long ago. It's like he built his own product because he was working at a big bank and he couldn't share any of his work at work, right? Because it has to be released. So he created his own kind of products and started to do that and create it into turn it into a little side hustle. So, I don't know, maybe that's something you could also try if you wanted to, is like find a problem, solve it. Can you actually monetize it? I don't know. Anyway, something to think about. I think that's a good idea. We got a lot of people asking questions about NDAs. So I'm going to just group them all together into like a generic question. But how do you show your work? Do you have any advice on how do you show your work when you've got an NDA and you can't show specifics? So you need to, I guess, genericize it in a way, but you still want to show it off.
So I would start by talking to your manager, because a lot of people sign NDAs, but they're not really sure like what the restrictions are on that. So ask them, can I showcase this work on my portfolio if I let you review the case study first, or if I put it behind a password, or if I only show it when it's necessary? Those are the kind of things. Just get a feel for what that NDA actually stands for, because you might have more flexibility than you realize. I password protect all of my work, and that's been okay with my previous employers. And that way I'm still able to showcase it when it's important, but obviously not advertising it to the world. A lot of people kind of find that to be a sweet spot. I mean, that sucks to have to put a password on your portfolio and your resume when you want to apply for jobs, but much better than to not be able to share your work at all. And it's kind of this catch-22, because like employers don't want you to share your work, but they expect you to come with a portfolio detailed with all of your past work experience. Yeah. So hopefully with that rationale, people can be a little bit more understanding. The other thing you can do too, and this is kind of a pain in the butt, but you can like white label your work, right?
Yeah, right.
Not put the company name, take any logos off your designs. It's a bunch more work, but it's a good way to still showcase what you've done versus the alternative, which would just be to not have anything at all. So kind of the lesser of two evils. Not the best compromise in my opinion, just because of the extra work you have to put in, but still better than not being able to share your work at all.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing to do as well. Because I think like with UX design, it's not about the brand, it's not about the colors, it's not always about the typography. Obviously, if you're going to white label it, make it look good, right?
Yes,
but
of course,
it doesn't matter if the brand colors are different or if the logo is different. Something else to note too is the data. Like this is something I ran into working at a big corporation like GE. They didn't have a problem sharing the interface. It was the data inside of the prototypes that they didn't want to get out. So there's actually like export control data that like I legally could never tell you because you're Canadian, and that technically the data crosses international lines. That's a federal offense. So like there's stuff there that's like the data. So I could just make dummy data. I could make up numbers. I could add random stuff. And like that doesn't necessarily change the interface. It doesn't change the work I did. So kind of genericizing it that way. So white labeling the data in a way. That's something to think about too. But I think it's important to read through that NDA and like get a lawyer or somebody if you can afford it, or a friend who knows these things, and just figure out like what is it that you really can't say, because an NDA could mean almost anything. It all depends what's in that contract. And I don't know about you, but like generally I'll just breeze through them and I'll just sign it, and I never like keep track of like what it actually says. So, I don't know. That's probably like a mistake that I'm making, I'm sure, but I don't know.
I think everybody wants to do that, right? I've started to be a bit more intentional about it. But yeah, those documents go on forever and ever, right? So if you can afford it, to have a lawyer read is always going to be the best choice. But I recognize, especially as career transitioners, it's not always $500 hanging around to hire a lawyer for contract review, right? So just getting information where you can is going to be helpful.
Yeah, I love that. Cool. All right. So we had a question on LinkedIn, I guess, now that the audio is fixed. People can hear us. So Georgia asked, and actually Georgia had a question she submitted. I don't know if this is the same question or same person, but is creating a portfolio using case studies of designs or websites or apps that you don't like or find problematic a good idea? So basically taking things that exist, modifying them in a way, and putting those on your portfolio.
So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the idea of a heuristic evaluation, but that's essentially what this would be, right? You're going to find a product and assessing it on a certain set of criteria that's been established and is reputable in the design community. And you can say, if it doesn't, hit this expectation, this is the recommendation I would make instead. I think that could be a good approach to supplementing your portfolio. If that was the only work you had on your portfolio, I might be a bit too loose for me to say, they have the skills necessary to be a designer. And it's also one thing to look from the outside and say, I would have done this. Like, ideas are cheap, right? Like, it's to actually pull them off and take it across the finish line is the hard work. So I want to see more of that from you. And then also, like, you don't know, like, we can make all these assumptions we want at the end of the day about why this sucks and why we did this. They might have a very good reason that we're not aware of as to why they designed it in this way. So again, maybe one case study of a heuristic evaluation. I think it can be nice to kind of diversify what your portfolio is, but I think if that's the only substance in your portfolio, it might be a bit too weak to get you to that job.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really great point about all the stuff, like all the crap that you see in the wild is not what the designer designed.
Not necessarily, right? Like, there could be some constraints,
right. Not
some
necessarily,
restrictions, like, you don't know, or they ran out of resources or time, whatever, right?
Yeah. Or they could have just been overwritten by somebody else who just, like,
Totally.
just completely, shot down their ideas. So I think that's a good idea. And it's interesting too, because, Facebook and I think maybe Google, Meta, whatever, they do a similar exercise. They don't necessarily do a whiteboard challenge, but they do an app critique. And when you interview, you have to go in and, like, they team you up with somebody from the company, and you go through and do that kind of heuristic evaluation in a way, and then you come up with ideas and things on how you might be able to make it better. But that's something I think it's just a good exercise in general for anybody who wants to do it. But I think the interesting thing too, I think like you called out, is don't get full of, like, hubris and just assume, like, they did a bad job, but think through, like, what could those constraints have been? Why might they have made the decision that they made? It's possible some of those things are just because they wanted to keep it consistent, and something has been like that, so they kept it that way so that it wasn't totally jarring. So anyway, I don't know. I think that's a really great advice. All right, let's see. We don't have any other questions on LinkedIn right now. I don't think I asked you this one yet, but this was a really great question. Steph, I think, asked this question. What's the biggest challenge that you faced when you made a switch to UX design, and how did you end up overcoming that?
Biggest challenge for me was just, like, my confidence and, like, trying to figure out if I was doing the right thing. Like, you graduate boot camp and it's like, you're on your own.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, it's terrifying, right? So, I'm, trying to refine my portfolio and make sure my resume's done well. I'm going to events and, like, meeting people, and I'm doing all the things people tell you to do, but doesn't mean that I'm doing it correctly or that I'm, like, making progress. So meeting with a group of my peers was really helpful to check in and see their progress and what they were doing. It was tangible then, right? Like, oh, they did this and it got them to this point. And we could see over time that we were starting to get interviews, and we were starting to get second round interviews, and somebody got an offer, it's obvious when you can actually, like, watch the progression over time. I also use Hunter. I love Hunter. It's an app where you can basically add jobs you've applied to, like, in a Kanban board style. So there's an applied column, there is a wait column, there's an interview column, there's a rejected column. And that actually kind of made it fun for me, like, gamified in a way where it was oh, I got the rejection email. Great. I can take one out of the applied column, and I'm moving things along. So that was the kind of way that I, tricked myself into enjoying getting those rejection emails rather than just waking up and there's, like, 3 more in your inbox. Like, oh my goodness. So that definitely helped. And then just the confidence, right, of, like, knowing if I'm doing the right thing. So once you start to see those results over time, like, I saw it early on with my peer group, but when I start to see, okay, I'm consistently getting phone screens now, I'm consistently getting first round interviews, you can tell then that you're doing things right. And that's very motivating when you can say, okay, I'm getting closer, one step closer each time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's, like, the hardest thing. Like, and it's been a long time since I've shifted careers from graphic design into UX design. I know the field's a lot different now, so my experience certainly is not the same. But I can tell you, like, for me, my biggest challenge was, like, I've never actually done this work. I'm speaking to theory. I'm speaking to things that I think are correct. But how do I know that I'm actually saying anything valid? And I think, like, for me, that was, like, one of my biggest challenges. And we've talked about imposter syndrome and stuff before, but, like, getting past that was so hard for me. And I don't know, speaking in a room with people, interview panel, especially with people who are actually had a job, and I'm, like, talking to them, it's like, well, this is what I would do. It's like, oh my God, am I actually saying the right thing? I don't know. For me, that was really hard. I don't know. It took me a long time to get past that. I don't know that I actually ever fully get past it, to be honest.
You get past that? Yeah, I dealt with that too. I don't think that that's, like, a novel experience, unfortunately. It's tough, but, like, when you're hiring a junior designer, I think there's not the expectation that you're going to come in knowing everything, right? Like they recognize that you're new
Yeah.
and you're still learning. So don't feel like you need to put that pressure on yourself as well, right? Like it's okay.
Yeah, I think that's really fantastic advice, because that's the thing. Like, I think when we go in as juniors, especially never had a job before, you are not being you're not being evaluated like they would a senior designer, a principal
Yeah,
designer, a director, or whatever, right? Like they're gonna know, like they don't expect you to have all the answers. But I don't know, humans, we always just assume like we've got this like spotlight on
right.
us, and everyone is like judging us, when in reality they probably are not. Let's see. All right, we had a question from Yashad on YouTube here. Let's see. How can a beginner designer let's see. I'm trying to think. All right. How can a beginner designer deal with rejection? They're currently a UX intern, and Yashad, the rejection is just beginning. Get ready, man. All right. So how can a beginner deal with rejection? That's a really great question.
Yeah, rejection's tough. Like, and I guess, is it in terms of like the job search, or is it like actually in your job? He says he's working as a design intern, so maybe it's like I'm going to take it more as like the latter half there. So,
Yeah.
maybe you're getting like your ideas rejected or your designs critiqued harshly. The first thing I would do is like try to separate myself from my work. You know, your
Yeah.
work is not a reflection of you, and you can't be invested in it because the first time you design something, it's never going to be perfect. That's the whole point, is to get feedback, ideate,
Yeah.
iterate, and continue the cycle, right? So the sooner you can get past that and not take things personally, that's just going to make it easier and better for you in the long run, and you're going to make better designs. The other part of that too is, you have these, rejections or this like critical feedback. Ask why, like get to the
Yeah.
bottom of it. There's probably a good reason people are sharing this to you, or not. You can also assess too, is this feedback really that valuable to me? There's that other side of it too. But get to the root of it and ask some questions. Oh, that's interesting. You think that? Can you tell me a bit more? Or why do you say that? Right? Get some more details, because you might be missing part of the story, and it might be very well intentioned. So I would assume positive intent generally.
Yeah, I think critique and rejection through critique is probably like one of the hardest things that just designers, but I think humans in general, like who likes to be critiqued about anything, like whether it's
No.
something you're cooking or how you're driving or whatever, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's
you know
true.
what I mean? And I think that's a skill that you have to build up over time. And
Yes.
it's a muscle that you have to build up over time. And like I've recommended this book so many times, but
I love that your bookshelf is
discussing
just, that is so handy. Like,
Discussing Design. This is such a
yeah.
good book by Adam Connor and Aaron Irizarry. And it is such a good book. I think like this should be like reading. Everybody should read this book. It should be like mandatory
Can
reading
you
in every
show the
school
cover?
boot
I
camp.
want to see.
Oh yeah, it's just an O'Reilly book, so it's gonna have an
Oh,
animal on
those
it.
books are always good though. Yeah.
Birds, two birds.
Oh, I
So
love the
yeah,
bird ones. Yeah.
Discussing Design. I think this is. There's only one edition. It's kind of old. It's got the old O'Reilly cover.
Classic.
But yeah, anyway, yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm gonna knock over all my Legos if I try to put this back right now. But yeah, that's such a good book. But it's like one of those things where, like critique, it goes both ways. It's like you have to know how to give proper feedback. You have to know how to ask for feedback.
Yes.
You have to know how to receive the feedback. You have to know what to do with the feedback. So there's so much there that I think a lot of people just assume it's like, oh, I don't like it. Well, like, that's not how critique works. And
Right.
if your team is giving you critique like that, then they need to read that book.
Yes.
This is actually something I would recommend the whole team read that book. And
There
that's
you go,
actually
yeah.
something they recommend in here. There's a lot of exercises and stuff that you can do with your team to help build that muscle up, because like I said, it is a muscle. So anyway, the critique, very important. I think that's a great advice. And it is something that's very hard. And it could be like one of those things where, like, especially if you've got imposter syndrome, getting negative feedback, even if it's like well-intentioned and it is accurate, it's like, it can be like kind of crushing, especially when you're new,
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yashad, if you got any specifics around what you mean, dealing with rejection for jobs or dealing with rejection at work, let us know. We can't help you with dating rejections, but we can help you with the other stuff.
No, unfortunately not. Yeah.
All right. So we've got about 15 minutes left. I've got some fun this or that questions that I want to ask you. So when you were on the show, we asked you 5 very, very hard questions about your favorite book, your favorite non-design book, your favorite non-design podcast, meal, travel. You've done a lot of awesome travel and stuff. This time, I've got this or that questions. Now, I sent you a link earlier with a lot of the questions. I hope you didn't cheat. You
Just
didn't
a
cheat,
little
did you?
bit. Yeah.
You did cheat? All right. So the first thing that comes to your mind, I just got 20 here.
Okay.
20 questions. I'm going to just go through them real quick. First thing that comes to your mind, you don't have to think too hard about it.
Okay.
And then we're going to go. You ready?
I'm ready, yeah.
All right. Now, one more time before everybody's listening out there, if you got your questions, throw them in there. We might have time for one more question after we're done with this or that, but we're going to do it. All right. First up, time travel. Would you rather time travel to the past or to the future? You can only pick one.
The future, because then like I could like just time travel like a couple minutes like to somewhere else, like almost like hopping around the world, like forget flights and stuff. That would be pretty cool.
Oh, you're treating it like a wormhole or something.
That's yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess this is true because we didn't really talk about like what the physics of the time travel.
No,
I'll allow it.
yeah,
I'll allow it. All right.
Whatever I want it to be, right? Yeah.
That's true. All right. Would you rather have an invisibility cloak or the ability to fly?
Oh, fly for sure. Anyone that wants an invisibility cloak, like, what are you doing? Like, fly? Come on. Yeah.
Why are you sneaking around? All
Yeah,
right. Would you
exactly,
rather space travel or travel through space or explore the deep blue sea?
Oh, that's a good one. Space travel is like scary because like how do you get back and how many years of your life? I'm thinking about this like way too granularly. So maybe sea travel. I like to scuba dive. So if I could go deeper and see more, but like not in like a submersible because that was obviously pretty terrifying.
Yeah, I think either way.
Yeah.
Either way, I'd be kind of terrified. I'd be ready to get back on like the beautiful hard cold ground personally.
Yes, exactly.
Would you rather be a famous director or a famous actor? So behind the scenes or in front of the camera?
Like the actor sounds fun, but then you see like all the crap that those celebrities deal with on a day-to-day basis. So that doesn't sound like it would be fun for like more than one day. So maybe director would be the smart choice.
Yeah, I would love to be behind the scenes. I don't need to be to stop me constantly. I guess like it depends on like the level of director. At some point you become a celebrity yourself. But all right.
I suppose,
all right. Only eat pizza for a year or never eat pizza again.
Oh, for a year, for sure.
Like every day for a year.
Oh, no
every
problem.
Day for a year.
Yeah, you could get different styles of pizza. You could dessert pizza. Like you'd be fine.
That's true. Yeah, we're we're in Cincinnati and we are really close to Detroit. And I had never really, I didn't think of Detroit pizza. Have you ever had Detroit style pizza?
I've only had like Chicago deep dish when I went. I like scoped it out, which was like pretty phenomenal. I have not been to Detroit though, so I can't say that I'm familiar with the pizza culture.
Oh my God. So Detroit's pizza is like, it's thick, but it's not like deep dish Chicago. It's like thick, like almost like a focaccia bread, but it's like buttery and it's crispy and like the cheese and everything goes to the end and it's in this like deep pan so that like the sides get all crispy and crusty. Oh my God, it's so good.
See, we've already talked about so many different kinds of pizza. How many? That's already a week of pizza right there, right?
That's true. So you could have, you could split. Okay. Maybe I need to reword this question then. All right. That one's a silly one. I don't know why anybody would never eat pizza again. All right. Live in a world without coffee or live in a world without music.
So I'm actually not a big coffee drinker. I maybe drink coffee like a handful of times a year. So that's a pretty easy one for me. But I was in a marching band and I liked playing music quite a bit. So I would definitely pick, to have a world with music.
All right. So what would you play in a marching band?
I played alto saxophone.
Really? Right on. I played saxophone as a kid.
Oh, very cool. Okay, nice. Yeah.
My uncle was a saxophone player. He's like a jazz player. So he got me into playing sax, and I only did it for like a year, but I could do like a really cool like jazzy version of "Mary Had a Little Lamb."
Like, oh hell yeah! Okay, yeah.
A lot of fun.
We're waiting for the track to drop, Jeremy. Yeah.
Yeah. This was like this was like the early '90s, late '80s. So I don't think that there's probably not a single recording of that anywhere.
That's really a missed opportunity. That should be your new intro. Yeah.
I know. All right. Would you rather have the ability to read minds or be invisible?
So I've actually thought about this, and I think that people's minds are not actually that interesting. Like people are like, oh, read minds, it'd be so illuminating. Like nobody's thinking of anything. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna make dinner, I gotta get my laundry. Like, so I can't even remember what the other option was, but because the reading minds, I don't think it's all it's cracked up to be.
It might be like, man, my pants are so tight right now. Like I need to.
Yeah. He's
Wait,
like, who cares?
gotta
Like,
stop
it's
eating
not anything
those
interesting.
cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
All right. Would you rather have a rewind button or pause button for your life?
Pause, I think, 'cause you can enjoy a moment longer, maybe.
Mm.
Or you just like that movie, I think back to like Clock Stoppers, where they would like go heist the bank because they could like stop, pause time, and like go in and do whatever they wanted. So I don't know, that could be pretty interesting. Maybe, I don't
Yeah.
know. Would you pick the pause or would you go rewind? That's a good one.
I would probably go. I would go with rewind, so I could
Really? Okay.
if I make a mistake, I can fix it.
Fix
Like
your
I could go back in
mistake.
time and like wiggle my mic, so like I
Or
didn't.
you could experiment, right? Like try something. Oh, that did not work. Let's try that
That's
again,
true.
right?
You know what's
Yeah.
actually interesting because I'm thinking about the more I'm thinking about this, it's like essentially like almost like Groundhog Day in a way, where like you could just like pause time and learn a language or whatever, and then like start again, and then suddenly you're like fluent or like learn to play piano or something. You know what I mean?
If you like
I don't
actually
know.
used it that
Interesting.
way, though, do you think everybody
That's
would
true.
use
Yeah.
it like, or they would just be lazy? You're like, oh, I just want to sleep longer. Like rewind. Yeah.
That's true. Actually, because like in Groundhog Day, everybody was awake and moving around. You just had to live that day over, so you could learn piano from somebody. But like, yeah, you'd have to teach yourself. That'd be hard. Okay, yeah, you're right. Maybe I still think I'd go with rewind.
Okay, that's
All
fair.
right. Would you rather live in a world where everybody whispers or everybody shouts at you?
Oh, my family were all big shouters, so that's already natural to me. So no problem there. Yeah, let's go. I'll go for shouting for sure.
All right, I love it. All right, we got a couple of design related questions here.
Okay.
Would you rather only be able to conduct user research through interpretive dance or through haiku poems?
I mean, the haiku poems would be a lot of work to put that together, but I think you could probably get better insights. I'm not really a great dancer. Never really done interpretive dance either, so I think I'd probably elicit better responses with the haiku poems.
That's true. Yeah, and I think the problem too with like interpretive, it's right there in the name. It's like how are you interpreting the
Yeah,
dance,
exactly.
right?
It's
Like
not very
everyone's going to
clear.
interpret it different ways. Yeah, that one's going to be hard. Let's see. Would you rather have every project managed by a cat or by a sentient AI with a very bad attitude?
The bad attitude is no fun. Like, and I take things personally. I know we're all taking advice, you know, don't take things personally. I tend to take things personally sometimes. So that AI might get under my skin. And I think a cat might just like not be fussed. And then I could just kind of do whatever I wanted. So then I could really manage the project. So that might
Yeah,
be the
by
smarter
the
choice
cat.
for me.
The
Yeah.
cat just sit in my lap, just pet the cat all day. It's
Yeah,
like, yeah, you're
exactly. Like,
managing.
okay,
Sure,
cool.
I mean, you're managing. Sure, yeah, you're
You
managing.
love this. Yeah, this is
Yeah,
great.
there you go. All right. I got a couple more. All right. Would you rather work on a project with absolutely zero user feedback or with feedback from every user, but all the feedback is conflicting?
Well, like if I'm not getting any feedback at all, that's like the worst product to build ever. At least if I had like conflicting feedback, I could make an educated guess and build for half the audience or the other half, right?
That's right.
Yeah, you have to get feedback. I can't get nothing. Like, then what's the point, you know?
I love it. All right. All right. Last one. This one's really hard. I don't know how you're going to answer this one.
Okay, great.
Would you rather have your designs critiqued by Gordon Ramsay or Simon Cowell?
Oh, I like Gordon Ramsay. Even if he hurt my feelings, I'd still like take it as a compliment. So I go that route. I respect his judgment. Yeah.
Yeah.
More than Simon Cowell, anyways.
Yeah. They are both just so mean.
Yeah, that's true.
I
Yeah.
actually wonder like how much of that is actually for show. Like, are they really that mean in person in real life,
I don't
or are
know.
they
You
just doing
sometimes
it
see
for
Gordon
TV?
Ramsay like nice on Twitter where he like responds like a kid that's cooked something. I'm like, there's, you know, he has some niceness to him. I think that we could maybe work it out.
I love it. Absolutely. All right. So I think that's it. We don't have any other questions. So I think we're gonna close it out here, Emily. Thank you so much for joining us today. Any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
Nothing really top of mind, but like, thanks for listening to the podcast episode. Thanks for joining us. If you have any
Yeah.
questions, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'm sending my newsletter. So if you want to stay up to date with things that I think are interesting, helpful, and UX resources, you can find that on my LinkedIn page.
Right on. And I was going to ask if you want to give yourself a plug. What's the URL? Do you have a URL website to sign up for the newsletter and stuff, or is it just in your
Oh, it's
LinkedIn
all on
page?
my bento. So it's bento.me/Emilie-Mazurek. There you go. Or you can
Awesome.
find me on dandydesign.ca. That's my personal website.
dandydesign.ca. Yeah, cool. And also, too, you can check out Emily's episode on the beyonduxdesign.com website and the show notes, and all the links and stuff are there as well. So you can do that. All right. Cool. Well, thanks, Emilie. Thanks so much for joining. This was a lot of fun. I think that's it for us for today. I hope we helped to shed a little bit of light on how you can make your transition to UX design a little bit easier. We talked a lot about portfolios and stuff today, so hopefully we're going to help you, some of y'all out with that. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you know somebody who might find any of this stuff that we're doing useful, then for the love of God, tell them about it. That'd be fantastic. Help keep the show independent and ad-free. Check out beyonduxdesign.com/support to find out how. You can join Chris, Siraquan, Stacy, Radu, Megan, Andrew, John, Mark, Kevin, Jason, Michelle, Marty, and many others, and help keep the show independent and ad-free. You'll get rough transcripts and exclusive access to the entire video library of episodes, even episodes before they're released, and you can get instant access to all that for as little as $5 a month. If you want to transform your career from fuzzy to focus, make sure to grab UX Playbook's Fast Track bundle. Head on over to beyonduxdesign.com/playbook. Use the promo code BEYOND for nearly $25 off. Ready for that exclusive $20 coupon for Beyond UX Design? Master your craft beyond pixels and prototypes. Head on over to beyonduxdesign.com/book. Use the code LIVE to get $20 off your copy and master all the things that they didn't teach you in school. And remember to sign up for the newsletter, check out all the past episodes along with all the show notes, and sign up to learn about all these events as they happen. Hope you keep coming back for more great UX tips. Remember, you're more than a designer because there's more to UX and design. I'll see you around. Take care, y'all. I think that's it. We're done. All right, Emilie, I'm going to play this little video. We're going to get out of here. If you want to stick around after I go off, we'll chat for a minute. We'll debrief.
Okay, sounds good. That? Yeah.
Awesome. I got to find the thing. Where's the video? There it is. All right. See you guys.